I have a really great guest today. Alexa Rae Navarro is the new, 2 or 3 months, executive director of Startup San Diego, which is an exciting organization we're going to hear about for startups, especially for very young people. And we'll learn a lot more about Startup San Diego and what it does and the plans for the future. But if you're a budding entrepreneur, this is a really interesting segment for you. And we're going to talk about the challenges of this economy. It's certainly not the best growth situation right now, but what do we do about it, and how do we not lose momentum? Because if you got a great idea, I'd hate to see you lose 6 months waiting for the right time to market. So Alexa, welcome. It's great to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about Startup San Diego. You're fairly new, but tell us about the goals and missions and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Phil. As a Triton alumni, this is really an honor to be here with you today to share really about this amazing organization that, as you mentioned, I'm the fairly new executive director of. So Startup San Diego is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that really serves as the gateway to our San Diego startup ecosystem. So, we upskill, guide, and connect our local tech community to the right ecosystem resources, networks, and support institutions to really foster a cohesive and collaborative community. So our core mission really is to connect, educate, and inspire founders and local talent to grow an equitable San Diego startup ecosystem and entrepreneurial community. And we really do that through all of our events and programs that we have at Startup San Diego. I'm sure you're familiar with Startup Week, San Diego Startup Week, which, is typically in a, normal non-pandemic circumstance, a 5-day.
Which we're not in right now.
Which we are not in, right? Normally a 5-day conference bringing together all the different segments of the ecosystem. And so, Startup Week for Startup San Diego has now turned into Startup Month. So we're going to be delivering a month's worth of content, support, experiences to our ecosystem during the month of October. But we have a lot of other programs that we do also, monthly programs, which of course, they're events. It's events based. So things are sort of at a standstill at the moment, but we've been really thinking about creative ways to really support and engage our community of founders.
And if somebody is listening today, and they went, oh, that sounds great. I want to contact them. I want to get involved. I need their support and mentorship. Is it a simple phone call, email? Before we forget, how do people contact Startup San Diego and get on their contact list?
Absolutely. So startupsd.org is the first place I would start. And I would click on the button that says Join Community, and that will ensure that you are subscribed to our email newsletter, which we send on a monthly basis. But there are also a number of other ways to really connect with us and the larger community, to ensure that you're building your community, right? Because as we mentioned, we're not in a normal time. And so I think more than anything, to ensure resiliency is that, we connect folks to the larger ecosystem. People find their tribes to really get through and come out on the other end of this, which I don't know when that is, right? We don't know. But the San Diego Startup Slack channel, I think is another really great resource to get access to. And you can get to that community through our website as well. So, we have over 2,000 members that are actively participating in that community Slack channel, in a number of different topics. Ranging from, talent or, different subgroups. So I would really say that that's a really good place to get connected. And also something fun that, we've done together as a team to sort of get through this pandemic. We started a collaborative Spotify playlist. So it's called Startup San Diego Sounds. And really, it was our way of of connecting to each other through the medium of music during this pandemic time where, we're not able to see each other on a monthly basis. We normally host first Mondays and third Mondays events where, we're convening our community and we're, networking and we're building our, internal relationships. And we're not able to do that. So for us, it was really a way to kind of heal together and get through this together. So I would definitely check out these collaborative Spotify playlists as well.
And if I keep saying young person, of any age, and I have the passion to be an entrepreneur. I always tell people, I hope everybody in their working life has a chance to be an entrepreneur and start a business. I mean, it is the most exciting, challenging, hardest work you'll ever done, but the most gratifying. And I want everybody to try it once, even if, I joke about grandma's jam recipe and you make it and you sell it at a farmer's market, every Saturday morning. It can be that simple. But if I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't have my idea yet, right? I'm not a techie. I'm just excited about starting my own business. Would that be appropriate for San Diego? I think San Diego Startup, I think you have the reputation of being very high tech. It's got to be online. It's got to be that sort of. What if I let's use my example, grandma's famous jam. Is startup appropriate for me?
I think what would be great for somebody, who kind of fits the description of what you just described, we have put together a really great resource list for all of the resources, in our ecosystem, because there's a lot ranging everything from, co-working spaces to incubator programs, meetups, investors, service providers. And I think the first place I would start is really identifying what resources are at your disposal, right? And so, I would say definitely start at that resource list to find out what is sort of the appropriate organizations pending on your stage, which what you just described, I would define as sort of a curious entrepreneur. So we classify them. I know Jared and you and Jared talked about this in, his interview, but we sort of define entrepreneurs in the categories of curious, committed to crushing it. Right. And so if you go to our resource list and website, you'll see those resources kind of categorized, by those tags to really help folks to really navigate all those resources that are really at their disposal. So, Phil, for someone who has an idea like you described, I would highly recommend, pursuing first probably SCORE. Which is a federally funded program, or also the Small Business Development Center Network, which is also a federally funded program by the Small Business Administration to really help, sort of help you to articulate, perhaps it's a business plan, to really start to formalize your idea from, just the idea to putting it, on a piece of paper and sort of highlighting those key areas to really set the foundations for a quality business.
And probably the number one frustration of any entrepreneur is funding, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what Startup San Diego does to match those sort of venture funding with great ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, at Startup San Diego, we're all about community, right? We're all about, providing a platform for people to expand and grow their networks, right? So for example, you take our First Mondays events. Those are really the main goal, intention, purpose is networking. So connecting all different segments of the ecosystem together, right? So founders, investors, ecosystem support organizations, service providers, incubators, accelerators, right? So we sort of provide the platform for all of those different segments to really connect and make those connections. Startup Week is a really great example, right? So we have a lot of experiences that, for example, provide direct mentorship to founders. So, depending on what you need, right? I think a lot of early stage founders think that the thing that they need the most to get their idea off the ground, to give it wings, is money. And quite often the case, that is actually not the thing you really need. I think it's important to really be able to identify like, what do you need help with the most? And it's hard for founders to be able, early stage founders, to really be able to articulate that. And so I think mentorship is, a really great way to get, the support that you need, to find that sounding board, to find that expert that perhaps is in the vertical, in which you are trying to enter, right? So, definitely mentorship. There's also a lot of great incubator programs around town. And, again, I would divert folks back to that resource list, because I think it really is a really great starting point to really assess, what's going on. And I think what's going on, what resources are at your disposal. And, I would say ecosystem navigation is a really, really big priority for us at Startup San Diego. Last year, Q3, I believe it was, this predates me, but we launched what's called the Startup Coalition, and it's really bringing together all of the other ecosystem support organizations to really coalesce and talk about, what are the major challenges and barriers to entry at our ecosystem, and how together can we serve to really tackle and solve all of these challenges? How do we create a frictionless, zero barrier to entry experience for founders, really, figure out the resources that would really serve to help them launch and scale their, ventures, and go through the system in a much more, speedier, efficient, and effective way. So, at the end of the day, like, again, we're building community, and, we're really trying to support the growth and scale of startups in the region.
Yeah. The other great thing I've heard about Startup San Diego is an individual says, I have an idea about the technology, but I know nothing about marketing. I know nothing about that. And finding relationships and partnerships that you meet at these events that go, well, I have no marketing. I don't have an idea, but I'm a great marketer. And so they go together. They're not young people anymore, but the two people that started Nixon watches up in Carlsbad, all the surfer watches sort of thing.
Yeah.
They were at an event, and one guy said, I love technology. It was technology. I love watches and timepieces and all that. And he was talking to somebody else and said, well, I love marketing and exciting things like that. And I know nothing about that. Anyway, they have a phenomenal, successful company when you talk to them, they go, I know the technology, I know the marketing, and we don't step on each other's toes, right? And they just met at an event, and it blossomed out of that. So putting yourself out there to meet other people that have good ideas that you can support or that can support you is really a key part of this whole organization. Tell us about the times right now. Is it affecting startups as much as we would think it would be? Or, as somebody said to me the other day, we have a lot of time in our hands now to think about our ideas and to work on them because I'm on furlough or I'm, was let go. So how do we take advantage of these times so that when the things turn around, the economy turns around, we're ready to go? What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. I think about the last couple of months. And I think, when we first started going into quarantine, right, there was a big adjustment period, right? Think about it. I, for example, am a mother of a 2.5-year-old, right? And so I had to very quickly figure out the balance between, my professional work, right? Personal life, motherhood, being a wife, all of these things, right? In addition to, I really think of Startup San Diego as a startup in and of itself, right? We're still fairly nascent.
The ultimate startup is Startup San Diego.
Yeah. We're a fairly nascent nonprofit. And so, I just look at all that experience that I just, mentioned is very likely the similar experience that a lot of other founders might be going through. A lot of people were professionally displaced, right? So that was rough and that was difficult. And we all kind of, I feel like needed that period of adjustment, and it's okay, right? Like, entrepreneurship is a difficult, risky path. And so you know, early on in, you know, quarantine and pandemic, we did a workshop series to support founders during this time in partnership with the Downtown San Diego Partnership and Mission Edge. And we kicked off the workshop series on ecosystem navigation and entrepreneurial leader mindset. And in that session, we really focused on mindfulness, right? Because this is unprecedented, right? So how to kind of navigate you know, all of this and being centered and prepared for this entrepreneurial journey is incredibly important, right? If you are a more mindful individual, mindful founder, you can navigate problem solving in a much more strategic way, right? You are less stressed out. You can be more effective and, you know, efficient at, you know, the role that you are doing for your company, whatever it might be. And so, you know, first things first, get centered, go back to the basis, look inward a little bit, right? Because entrepreneurship is difficult. And so, you know, going back to your original question, if we look at history, right? If we look at like the dot-com bubble, if we looked at the recession in 2008, during times of crisis, there does come innovation, right? And disruption, right? And right now, there's a lot of people professionally displaced. And I think it actually provides an opportunity for people and talent really to come together and launch companies and create things that are new, right? If we look at, you know, the dot-com bubble, Facebook came out of that, right? You know, we look at the recession, came Slack, right? Which is an incredible tool, Peloton, all these different companies. And so, you know, yes, it's a difficult time, but I think with difficulty and challenges comes opportunities, right? To be innovative.
Yeah, and a lot of great people that you'd want to meet and talk to might be meeting online are now available. They're not going to board meetings. They're not going to parties. They're not going out to dinner. They're not going to movies. And they're, instead of, oh, would he or she take my call? The chances are much higher they'll take your call now than they would during their normal schedule. So this is the time to sort of make those calls because people are more available and more receptive.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I mentioned the early stage workshop series. We actually polled our audience, you know, is COVID, is the pandemic, does it make you less likely or more likely to launch your company or business? And a majority, over 60% of the audience said more likely. More right. Likely. And I think more likely. And really, I see entrepreneurship really as an alternative path to COVID recovery and resiliency. So, you know, we're really doing all that we can to figure out how to support entrepreneurs during this time, right? We're really laser focused right now on completely pivoting our, you know, normally a week-long conference, Startup Week, into a now completely virtual startup month. And so we're really being intentional and thinking about, you know, what are our founders' needs in this moment at this time, and how can we create a month-long worth of content and experiences to help people take that plunge, right? Go from curious to committed and decide to really launch, right? We've got 4 weeks in the month of October. So can we support you in taking your idea or thing from, you know, ideation to launch? And so, you know, I think it's really important to start, right? There's a really great quote that came out of our keynote discussion at the 2019 Startup Week. And the quote was, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." And so I really do encourage you, you know, now's the time, right? Like we've had that period of adjustment and, you know, to the new normal anyway, right? But dig in, look inward, right? Because I think now's the time. And you have support. You really have support.
we sort of talked about technology, and I think Startup San Diego, we assume it's all about technology. And we talked about that other example of Jam. If I want to start a service business, or I want to start a retail store, or I want to, is that appropriate for Startup San Diego also?
We tend to work with a lot of tech startups. So, then you get into this, well, what is a tech startup anyway?
Yeah, took
right?
the words out of my mouth.
Right. Which is difficult to even think about. But, the way I like to think about it is that, tech is a vehicle, right? So, for example, if you have some sort of product, right? And, you are trying to sell that product online. That is an e-commerce company, right? And so I would say that, we really serve to empower tech startup companies that are, really leveraging tech as a vehicle, right? Yes, a lot of those companies tend to be more higher growth. But, I would not say no to an e-commerce company, right? Because at the end of the day, again, we're trying to cultivate community and build networks, right? And so the more people the more resources you have at hand, the more successful you are going to be at the end of the day.
Tell us a little bit how San Diego's startup community is different than others. I mean, we keep hearing about Silicon Valley, we hear about Boston, the Triangle in North Carolina. What are we different? Is it harder here, easier here? What's your sense of how does our market appear, our community for startups appear better or worse, different than other parts of the United States?
Yeah, I would say that our community is a little bit more nascent, right? Compared to the communities you just mentioned, even, Los Angeles for that matter, right? So, for example, I was in the LA tech ecosystem, really cultivating the community there, for the last 8 years. And so, even compared to Los Angeles, we're still, fairly nascent, which I think is a really great thing. And it's a tremendous opportunity because we really do have the power to sort of mold the ecosystem and community that we really want for ourselves. And so, I will also say that the community from my standpoint is incredibly collaborative, and it's relatively small. And so, I think that's a huge pro, right? Because we're all willing to sit together in a room or on a Zoom call, right? Together, right? Despite all of our, individual missions and core competencies, to align around, a core intention that sort of transcends all of those individual missions, right? Like, we are willing to work together to say, hey, like, this is our ecosystem, this is our community. And how do we, what are the challenges that our community has, and how do we tackle those challenges together, right? The resource list that I mentioned to you, that list came out of that coalition. And so I think it really does say a lot about our community, which is incredible.
Yeah, the Economic Development Corporation, EDC here at San Diego, is really charged with supporting business to grow and bring new businesses into San Diego, which is tough because it's a very expensive environment. And we had a discussion a year or so ago about the Santa Barbara, sort of Long Beach. The coast was wanted for a while to be known as Silicon Beach.
Yeah.
And play up the beach community. And we sort of stepped back and went, we want people to take us seriously in San Diego. It's a beautiful day outside, gorgeous beaches. It's the most wonderful community to live in. But everybody thinks we're laid back and let's go surfing now instead of work hard on our idea and our startup. Do you find that you have to fight that image in San Diego, or does it promote creativity when people are out bobbing in the water on their surfboards talking about their ideas?
Every community has their perception, right? And I feel like we fall into this trap. Every community gets compared to the Silicon Valleys of the world, right? Which is it's a total trap, right? And I think some of these things, right, like you just mentioned, they're sort of unique characteristics and factors about our community that we should actually celebrate, right? That's what makes us San Diego. I mean, look at where we live. Who doesn't want to live here, right? It's absolutely incredible. And, I think what's wonderful about UCSD is the amount of talent that is there, right? UCSD, all the other institutions, right? And if we think about why startups, locate where they do, I did, as part of my graduate, capstone project up at UCLA, I did a project digging into, locational preferences of startups and why they choose, to locate where they do. And it really is talent, right? And I know there's a lot of investment that's coming into the region to really focus on cultivating and developing that next generation talent, right? You mentioned EDC, and I know they were the recipients of the JP Morgan Chase Advancing Cities Foundation funds, right? And so, there's so much talent between all of the local universities, the private universities, the Cal States, the community college system.
SDSU
right?
is a huge entrepreneurial.
Exactly.
That people don't know about, that they're surprising is that they have a great one.
Right. And so, we're a powerhouse region, right? And I think we're still very nascent. And, I think a lot of people talk about capital and, how that might be lacking, but it's growing on an annual basis. If you look at, all of the investment reports that Connect puts out, you see that growth. And I think, the more companies that we graduate, it's sort of like when you think of an ecosystem, right? If you have more successful entrepreneurs who launch and scale more successful companies and talent and hire, local talent and then exit and then invest that back into the ecosystem, then it's going to continue to grow. So, yes, there might be that perception, but again, I really think that, it's the uniqueness of San Diego and we should celebrate.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship. We own franchises of companies. And my father was with the same oil company for 35 years, never worked for another company, and thought I was crazy when I wanted to start my own business and go into business with my best friend at the time, of which we knew nothing about having a business. And first of all, it was the luckiest, smartest thing we ever did, but it is so exciting and so fulfilling to have your own business. But as I said earlier, it's important to try, right? Don't think it's for other people.
Yeah.
And don't think it's near impossible because I don't write software, I don't know computers, or I don't know technology. That's not the point. Your focus is more on technology, but that whole entrepreneurial way of starting your own business and running it out of your garage and seeing where it goes. And if it doesn't work out, at least you tried, right?
Yeah.
You didn't lay on your deathbed, go, why? The one thing I wish I had done was tried, my silly example, grandma's jam. And I should have done it. So to all of those watching, this is the time to do it, right? You may have a lot more time on your hands than you think about. There are wonderful resources in San Diego community. Startup San Diego being very key, but there are other ones that UCSD, EDC has them. A lot of support out there. People want you to succeed. They want to work with you. They want to meet you. And this is a great resource to use. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everyone who's participated, and we'll see you at our next segment.